This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
So first of all, I want to wish you all a very, very happy new year. Hope it's a prosperous one for you, a wealthy and most importantly, a healthy one for each and every one of you. So a couple of days ago, you guys would have seen the video that I'd done with Anthony Joshua listing his top 3 favourite heavyweights of Jack Johnson, Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. And I got that from an article which came from Anthony Joshua being on the show Top Gear. But now I have the video of Anthony Joshua on Top Gear, which I shall put in the description box for you all. And why is that important for this video? Because he didn't just talk about those 3 fighters, he went into detail, so now we know why he chose those 3. But also he spoke about Deontay Wilder and the fact that Deontay Wilder is trying to reach for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow now rather than earn it, even though he's already getting paid a healthy amount of money, right? A real stupid amount of money, more money than he's ever seen in his entire career. But Wilder wants the money more than he wants the fight. And this is what Anthony Joshua goes into in that video. So before you go and have a watch of that one, I want to break down my version of it, of course. Then you guys go watch that other video with Anthony Joshua on Top Gear, come back here and of course drop your comments below as to whether or not you agree with me or your own interpretation of what it is that Anthony Joshua was talking about. So the pot of gold. Okay, so he says that Deontay Wilder is very difficult to deal with. And he says that, you know, he's been in the ring and obviously had to negotiate with former world champions, current world champions, and of course, champion contenders. Okay, so what he means by that, Charles Martin, IBF world champion. Okay, Anthony Joshua had to negotiate with him to get that belt. He made Charles Martin the clear A side in that one. Joshua made very little money in comparison to what he does now. So he sacrificed his fight purse to get Charles Martin. So again, you could probably argue, well, why is it that Deontay Wilder didn't fight Charles Martin as both PBC fighters? At that point, Wilder would have been a unified heavyweight champion, right, with WBC, IBF. But PBC, even though they both have Wilder and Charles Martin, didn't want to do that. So Anthony Joshua overpaid Charles Martin to come to the UK and put his title on the line. So he's talking about Charles Martin. He's also talking about Joseph Parker, for a unification fight. Joseph Parker was a WBO World Heavyweight Champion. So he had to go through all the negotiations. A lot of those negotiations were public. So I'm not going to tell you anything that you don't already know. With the fact that Team Parker, they wanted 50% to start with, but they were doing it in order to get to the number that they wanted. In other words, they were playing the high ground in order to get the percentage of what they wanted. They got around about 30% or around about $10 million. Allegedly. So that's what he's talking about by facing world champions. Also Vladimir Klitschko. Now, as we know, again, it's no secret. You can look around it. You don't have to take my word for it. But the Klitschko brothers, both Vitaly and Vladimir, were notoriously difficult to negotiate with. For all fighters have said this, that they do not concede on anything. All contracts are in their favour each and every time. Okay, but yet somehow Joshua managed to negotiate with Vladimir Klitschko. Why are the Klitschkos so notorious in negotiations? Well, of course, they were managed by 2 people. Number 1, Bert Monty, we know about him. Number 2, Shelly Finkel. Who's Shelly Finkel? He's also the manager of Deontay Wilder. Is it coincidence that Vladimir Klitschko is notoriously difficult to deal with and also are now having difficulties with Deontay Wilder? Is that coincidence? Well, we'll have to wait and see. So anyway, Vladimir Klitschko, they managed to negotiate with him, and I don't quite know the details of it, but I would imagine that Klitschko would have been the A side in this one. Hence the reason why he also got a rematch clause put into the contract, as Klitschko always does. So somehow he managed to negotiate with Charles Martin, Joseph Parker and Vladimir Klitschko. He also managed to negotiate mandatories as well, as in Carlos Takam, originally it was Pulev, and then Alexander Povetkin. He also had a world title defences against Eric Molina. That shouldn't be too difficult to negotiate with. And of course, Dominic Brazil. Again, shouldn't have been too difficult to negotiate with. So again, he's saying that I managed to go through all this pretty unscathed, so I can concentrate on the fighting rather than the contract situations, the financials, the details. Okay, my team just deals with that. I know what it is I'm getting. They know what it is that they're getting. And we agree pretty simple. Some are more difficult than others, of course. But ultimately, they get done. But with Wilder, he's outpricing himself. He wants more money than Joshua has even made himself. He wants more money than certainly any opponent of Joshua has got. In fact, he's after more money, over double the money than what Vladimir Klitschko got. Think about it. Before Joshua fought Alexander Povetkin, he was negotiating with Deontay Wilder, and the final offer come in of $15 million, which at the time was 7 times more money than what Wilder has ever made in his entire career, as in his highest ever purse was 2.1 million. But they agreed to the 15 million, but then said, well, there's no date and venue and no rematch. But yet, we all knew the date and venue. We all knew that. End of October, Principality Stadium, Cardiff, Wales. The rematch thing, again, Joseph Parker never had a rematch. Charles Martin never had a rematch. So why is it that Wilder requires a rematch? Even though he would have got a rematch had he have beaten Joshua. So clearly he's not confident of beating Joshua. So that's the first one. But either way, all that aside, we can put that 15 million, the fact that Joshua did actually send a contract, the fact that he did actually reach out to Wilder. And it was them guys trying to chase Wilder's team to say, listen, we want this fight. We've got a time limit here because the WBA are pressurising us with Povetkin. But we're going to put all that to one side, plus the 50 million that wasn't 50 million. Again, Frank Warren admitted that 50 million was coming from him via BT Sport. Joshua can't fight on BT Sport. We know that. But all that aside, what about today? So Joshua says recently that I will give you a guarantee more money than you have ever made in your entire career. I will double your highest ever payday. Now, of course, with Luis Ortiz, 2.1 million, he's certainly not talking about that one. He's talking about however much you made against Tyson Fury. Even though it was Tyson Fury who sold that fight, even though it was Tyson Fury that brought the eyes and the ears to that event, and it was him and his ways and his backstory that sold a lot of people onto watching that event, not Wilder. Hence the reason why Wilder was never a pay-per-view star before. Him versus Ortiz potentially could have been a pay-per-view, but they didn't want to risk it because Wilder is not a draw. Okay? Much like Wilder versus Vladimir Klitschko never happened, even though they're both managed by Shelly Finkel. Why? Because Shelly Finkel didn't want that fight. He openly said he didn't want that fight for Deontay Wilder. He wasn't confident in him. So, anyway, a lot of people are saying that Deontay Wilder against Tyson Fury would have made it round about $14 million, which is outrageous. No way did he make that. Hell no. He had a $4 million guarantee. We know that. So you're saying he made $10 million from the pay-per-views. $10 million. Bear in mind, even if it did what the highest end of what people are saying, 350 pay-per-view buys in America, which is 325,000 pay-per-view buys compared to the flatline of 250. So it did 75,000 more pay-per-view buys. So out of 70,000 pay-per-view buys, he got $10 million plus from BT Sport. Come on now, that's ridiculous. But anyway, a lot of people are going with the narrative he made 14 million. So let's go with that one. So Joshua's offering to pay him 28 million guaranteed. But Wilder doesn't want that. Why doesn't he want $28 million? When for a long time he was saying, when a champion calls your name, you accept the challenge. That's what he said. Wilder's own words were, you don't think about money, you think about the legacy. That's what I'm about. I'm about the legacy, not about the money. But as Joshua was saying, Wilder just wants the money. He's not interested in legacy. Every time a fighter fights Joshua, it's a case of they want stupidly life-changing money. As opposed to, if they were going to be fighting somebody else, they're not going to demand that kind of money. So why are they demanding it with Joshua? And Joshua's saying quite clearly, I'm offering you a stupid amount of money. So the pot of, at the end of the rainbow is already there. But if you beat me, you get a bigger part, a much, much bigger part in the rematch. You become the A side, you become the star of the night, you became the guy who beat me. That's pretty much what Anthony Joshua was saying. So why is it that Wilder doesn't want to make the fight? Why? And why is it that a lot of his fans for a long time were saying, we don't care about money, we just want to see the best fight the best, and that's all Wilder wants. Well, clearly that's not what Wilder wants, and clearly that's not what they want either. Whatever Wilder does, they will side with him. They will make excuses for him. Not all of them, of course. There's a lot of people, and I see it in my comment sections, that fans of Wilder are looking at Wilder going, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. You're being offered stupid amounts of money for undisputed because you're too busy thinking about the now rather than what could be. If you're confident in beating this man, go beat him. Become part of history. Become undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Be the man that defeated Anthony Joshua. Not only that, you're getting paid $15 million, guaranteed. So if the fight flops, if the pay-per-views flop, everything flops, you're still guaranteed $15 million. But either way, Joshua's now saying, I will double whatever you made against Tyson Fury. So that's way more than $15 million, right? If we're going to go with the whole $14 million, then Joshua's been offered $28 million. So even if the fight does $100 million, which it won't, but let's just say it did, then that's 28%. That's a hell of a lot of money. It's a hell of a lot of money. What if it only does 70,000? I mean, talk about cutting your nose off to spite your face. And besides the fact, Wilder has, of course, come out recently and said, no amount of money will get me in the ring with Joshua. I mean, that in itself should tell you that he never wanted to fight. Not only that, prior to fighting Tyson Fury, he agreed a two-way rematch with Tyson Fury. So if he beat Tyson Fury, he'll get a rematch, of course. If he lost to Tyson Fury, he'll get a rematch, of course. That's what it was. What they didn't bank on was a draw. Hence the reason why they can negotiate now. And again, I do see a lot of comments with people saying, but the WBC have sanctioned this fight now, so therefore the rematch has to happen. Well, no, a sanction is not an order. Think about it. They have sanctioned it. In other words, if you guys want to have a fight, no problem. We'll put your mandatory, Brazil, on the back burner for now, if you guys want to have a rematch. That's all they're saying. It's not an order. They don't have to fight. But anyway, so that's what Joshua was saying, is that Wilder is just being greedy. Why is he being greedy? Why? Because his boss, Shelly Finkel, is telling him to be. Why? Because Shelly Finkel wants to make more money. He's not confident in Wilder. He never was. Historically, he has shown this. Okay, that he's not confident in Wilder. Hence the reason why he's taking Wilder 41 fights just to fight Tyson Fury. And he got a draw against a guy who's probably, 70% of what Tyson Fury could possibly be. 70%, and he gets a draw, a gift draw, even though most people look at that fight and go, he lost. Which is ridiculous. So, anyway, listen, I have no issue with a rematch with Wilder and Tyson Fury. For me, the Tyson Fury next time will be better. He will be more sharper than what he was on December the 1st. So I don't have too much of an issue with it, but ultimately, Wilder's just being greedy. And a lot of the fans who saying how Joshua's ducking, you need to have a word with yourself, because if Joshua is the one offering crazy money, offering double what he made against Tyson Fury, offering him undisputed, then quite clearly it's not Joshua who's ducking, right? A guaranteed rematch in America. April the 13th, Wembey Stadium, undisputed. This is what Joshua's offering. And like he says, I don't have this much difficulty with other people. Why am I having difficulty with him? Even though I'm offering him more money than I've ever made in myself, and more money than I've ever certainly paid any opponent of mine. So why am I having difficulties with Wilder? But yeah, a lot of the Wilder fans just don't get that point. They just don't get it. They don't want to get it. They don't want the fight, is what they don't want to do. They just want to troll. They just want to hate. That's what they do. But ultimately, the only way to settle it is for these two to get in the ring. You could say, well, Joshua should just offer a percentage. Again, I can't argue with that. But even then, Wilder, he's already said, I'm not interested. I don't care how much money that they offer me. It ain't happening. April 13th is not happening. Hopefully something happens and he changes his mind. Personally, I think the way to change the mind would be to get Dillian Whyte versus Tyson Fury. So that puts Tyson Fury out of the equation. So therefore, he fights Dominic Brazil or Joshua. Personally, I think he'll take Dominic Brazil, hence the reason why he was at the fight of Dominic Brazil. Listen, these guys have a little bit of needle. It is a little bit interesting. But we know that is not a pay-per-view. Why? Because Wilder is not a pay-per-view star. If he was, him versus Dominic Brazil, if that happens, would be on pay-per-view. But it's not. It won't be. I can guarantee it won't be. And if they were stupid enough to do it, it's going to be a major, major, major flop. I can guarantee you that much. But anyway, so that's what Anthony Joshua thinking right now is, why is it that he's trying to reach for the pot of gold? Not just him, but plenty of fighters. They see Joshua as a way to cash out, get their retirement fund now, rather than say, okay, if I beat Joshua, not only am I getting paid well anyway, but I'll get paid even more, and I'll be undisputed. So anyway, link in the description box for you all. Go give it a watch. Subscribe to this video, of course. Click the thumbs up while you're there. Drop a comment. Catch you all on the next video.